Hello, friends, and welcome. I am so excited to share with you today a conversation I had recently with a woman whom I've greatly admired for a number of years, Tricia Cusden. At the age of 65 and with no experience whatsoever in the beauty industry, Tricia launched a company not only to create makeup products that specifically worked for older women, but also a company that would be about more than makeup. Her dream was to create a business that would give her a voice so she could inspire older women to feel validated and relevant rather than marginalized. And she wanted a platform from which she could also offer women a different version of aging. And she has certainly done just that with her company Look Fabulous Forever. Before we jump into our conversation with Tricia, I want to thank those of you who are returning to my channel and also welcome those of you who are new. My name is Elise, and as a makeup artist who specializes in helping women over 50 look like the very best version of themselves, I love sharing makeup tips, techniques, and product information each Thursday that is relevant to us now, so we can look on the outside how we feel on the inside. So if this mission resonates with you, I hope you'll join our wonderful family of subscribers before you leave today. But now, without further ado, let's join Tricia Cusden to find out more about her and her company Look Fabulous Forever. All right, Tricia, thank you so much for being with us today. We really appreciate it.
I'm delighted to be here.
I am so fascinated by your story. I have to say, it's just captivated me because you launched yourself into a career where you had no experience whatsoever. But could you share with our viewers first what your career path was before you launched your company?
Yes, I was a bit of a late starter in career terms. I have to say, I got married when I was 22, which is quite common for baby boomers like me. And I was originally trained to be a teacher, which I didn't enjoy very much. I stayed home for about 12 years while my children were little. And then I did a degree as a mature student, at the end of which I was nearly 38. And I approached a large training consultancy, management training consultancy, and was very lucky that they saw something in me that they thought they could develop, given that I had a very thin CV. And I started working with them, and then that was in 1986. And in 1996, I left that consultancy and set my own business up. So I was basically offering coaching and training to managers and executives in corporate businesses, which I did until until I was 65, which is when I started the beauty business.
So this is a big leap to go from what you were doing to a beauty business. You had no experience, as I understand it, in the beauty industry. So what triggered your interest first in doing this?
Well, I had this really rather peculiar thing happened in the sense that I had a moment of crisis in my life, really, which was precipitated by my daughter Susie. She was pregnant, and then she gave birth to this baby a month early. This was when I just turned 64, and the baby was sick probably within about 2 or 3 weeks of being born. She was taken back into hospital, and to cut a very long story and rather sad story short, she was in hospital for nearly 10 months, diagnosed with a rare chromosomal abnormality, and it was very clear that she was going to have challenges both mentally and physically for the rest of her life. She survived against the odds, and during that year, up until I turned 65, I was really giving a huge amount of support to the family. I was basically trying to support my daughter Susie, who was quite distraught, and who was also spending a lot of time in hospital with the baby. She already had a 2.5-year-old little girl, and I was obviously helping to look after her as well. So I spent time in hospital, I spent time with Freya, and towards the end of that year, things got better in the sense that India, the baby, had been discharged from hospital, and Susie had engaged the help of a special needs nanny. So I was less needed on a sort of an everyday basis. And I had, I suppose, what you could describe as a kind of existential crisis. I didn't know what to do with myself. I'd wound down my business interests completely during that year, and I had no business to go back to as such. I didn't really want to go back to that business either. I felt that I'd come to a natural end, and I kept thinking I could die tomorrow or live for, possibly, hopefully, live for another 20 or 30 years. What am I going to do with the rest of my life? And I didn't fancy retirement as a word has never attracted me very much. And so I sort of put a few things together. I challenged myself to think about something that I could do for the rest of my life. And I thought, I love makeup. I have always loved makeup. I was very dissatisfied with the makeup I was buying, which I didn't think worked very well on my face. And I also very much disliked the messages of the beauty industry around anti-aging, which I thought was very negative. I was by then 65, and I just thought, I'm happy being 65. Why do I have to be forced to want to look younger? Why do I have to be anti-aging when I'm this age and I'm fine with it? So I put those three things together, and I at a Mother's Day lunch. We have Mother's Day slightly earlier than in the States. It's in March. I sat with my daughters and I said, you know what? I'm thinking of starting a beauty business, a makeup business for older women. And I'm thinking of finding a cosmetic manufacturer who can make me some products which will work better on my face now that I'm older. And they both looked at me and just went, fine, good, lovely idea. I think they were thinking, what's she up to? Anyway, they encouraged me in as much as they certainly didn't throw cold water over me. And I just Googled cosmetic manufacturers, and I went to see somebody, and the rest is history, basically.
Did that first person want to jump on board with you? Oh, that's amazing.
Very much so. Yeah, I was so lucky. I can't tell you, Elise, how lucky I was, because I had Googled cosmetic manufacturers, and I came across this site which wasn't very impressive, but it basically said we make bespoke ranges for cosmetic companies and so on. And I rang them up and said, I have no experience. I'm 65 years old, but I've got this idea of a range for older women. And the guy that I spoke to, who's called Alan, he just said to me, okay, come along and talk to me. And he's where the small manufacturers is that he runs is very near to where I was born and brought up in Suffolk in England. So I stayed with my brother and his wife and went to see him. And he just said, I think this is a brilliant idea. I love it. His own wife, he and his own wife were in their 60s. And he said, I can see that my wife would love something like this. So he said, he kind of, in an interesting way, although I didn't know it at the time, he sort of invested in my business, because he said, I'm prepared to make you 200 of these products at a time, and you can sell those and then come back for more. And I didn't realize that the minimum order quantity of products is basically, 5,000. Mm. So by making small runs of things, he wasn't making any money at all, but he was kind of helping. And he just said to me that I'll do all I can to help this business get going.
Wow.
Yeah.
What a treasure you found.
We still use him. I mean, he is still an incredibly important part of our business. His business is a very important part of our business. We wouldn't dream of going anywhere else. And now we are ordering, 10,000 at a time. So wow. We've absolutely fulfilled that faith that he put in us at the beginning.
So Tricia, after you had this amazing good fortune of finding this man, what were some of the biggest challenges that you faced when you were launching the company?
Well, I suppose, challenges is almost the wrong word, because when you're as naive as I was about what this business involved and entailed, there are no challenges. There are just things that you have to do. And somebody said to me, I think you need to have a graphic designer design you some packaging and I said, oh, do I really? Gosh, that's a good idea. So this person said, funnily enough, my daughter-in-law does that. So this was a friend, and she put me in touch with her daughter-in-law, who was brilliant, and created a logo and we worked on color schemes and all that kind of thing, boxes, packaging. And then I knew that I wanted to use video. That was very important to me. I'd used a lot of video when I was being a management trainer, and I knew it was an extremely good way to help people to understand something better by seeing it visually. And I thought makeup's a very visual medium. You know, you see it, you see the transformational effect on your face. So I knew video was really helpful. And so I knew how to go about making videos, so that was good. I managed to find a website designer to do a very basic. I had very little money, so I found a website designer to help me to create a fairly basic selling website. So I knew that I wanted to sell online. So I worked extremely hard for several months, put it all together, tested product, got a photographer involved, did a makeup course, did a course to become a makeup artist as well during that time, because I kept thinking I'm going to have to demonstrate this on people's faces, and I can do my own, but can I do somebody else's face? And my initial business plan was not to build an internet company, but actually to do a one-on-one selling operation and possibly franchise it. That was my vague idea. I would go out, I would talk to my friends of friends, and so it would go out like that. And I would do demonstrations and sell the products at the evening where I was demonstrating, or the morning or the afternoon. And that was how I started. And it was fine, but it was limited by how much time I had to get out on the road and actually sell this stuff. And then it took off online. It basically took off via YouTube, because YouTube was, we put the two videos that I made, the first videos that I made, onto YouTube. And despite all my expectations, which were very low, they kind of took off and got shared. And we've now had millions of views on YouTube. But you know, that with the YouTube videos becoming successful, I got orders almost immediately, and a lot of them came from the States. I mean, it was just, they were coming from all over the world. You know, I'd come back from an evening doing one-on-ones, you know, selling in somebody's house, and I'd look at the sales online, and it was like, why am I flogging myself to death doing this when online I'm making 2, 3, 4, 5 times as much? So eventually I stopped doing the one-on-one selling or the personal selling, and then just concentrated basically on running an online business.
So did you have any entrepreneur role models in your background at all?
Yes, I did. My mum and dad. So I was born and brought up in Suffolk, as I said, which is quite a rural area, very rural area. And my parents were, I suppose you'd say, they were big business people in a very small place. So they had a significant business, but in a tiny place. And they basically, it was a hardware store and builders merchants. But my mother joined my father in that business after the war. My dad came back from the Second World War, and he'd married my mother as war broke out. She was 18 when they got married, and she was 24 when they came back. And she just went, it was my grandfather's business, and my father came back. They went in, my mother went into the business with them, and she was kind of like the brains and the money person. So my dad was a very practical person. He was a very good salesman, but my mum was she was the businesswoman, really. And all the way through my childhood and right up to the moment she died. She actually died when she was 67. She was still working. And she just ran that business, really, as a businesswoman. She was brilliant with the finances. And she had, you know, she absolutely controlled the finances within the business to a very high level. And because the two together, both my father and my mother were sort of two halves of a whole, really. So they balanced each other out, but they together created a very successful business. So I had her as a role model, and I had her encouraging me always to do my own thing, to you know, to have a go, to try things and so on. So I think that's always helped me, because I've always thought that if I could do something, you know, if I tried it, it would work.
You now have your 2 daughters working with you, yes, as I understand it, which is wonderful. Yeah.
I love that aspect of the business. It wasn't intended at all. So when I had the idea back 8 years ago, I think they were both working with children. They have children. They were working. So Anna was working for PR consultancy, mostly arts-based PR, which she was doing successfully. Susie was working for Barclays Bank as a quite senior manager. And then when I'd been doing the business for about 6 months, Anna rang me one day and she said, your business is really interesting. And she said, it's actually surprisingly successful given how long you've been going. And I'm quite bored with what I'm doing. Do you think I could join you? And I could PR, I could get press, I could get coverage for this. So I just said, well, there's no job title, there's certainly no money, but you're very welcome to join me if you want to. And she did join me. And the first thing she did, she entered us for Best Business Startup for a national newspaper, which is called The Guardian. And we were shortlisted to one of 3, and we had a half-page spread in this national newspaper, and we got a huge response to it. And that put us on the map, that started to put us on the map. And then she managed to get other press coverage, and she contacted Google to talk about YouTube, and we got wonderful support from Google. We also got a lot of support from Facebook. So we had leg up, a leg up from various sources, which were hugely valuable to us. And it was all free because PR is basically free.
So it sounds like you probably decided to keep her on board.
Oh, sure. I mean, absolutely. Not least because of the PR was great, but she was also another person to talk to, to share, to support me, to worry about things when they went wrong. And then what happened with Susie was the following year. So Susie is India's mum, the baby with the special needs, and the other daughter that she has. And the following year, Susie had found juggling quite a demanding role at Barclays with her 2 children, one of whom was quite sick. Very difficult. And again, we were having a conversation one day, and she said, do you think there's a role for me in Look Fabulous Forever? And I just said, well, we really need somebody who's good with a spreadsheet. We haven't got anybody at the moment. Because I'm not good with a spreadsheet, and Anna is certainly not good with a spreadsheet. We're far too creative and sort of uninterested in all that boring stuff. And Susie said, "Oh, I love a spreadsheet. I would love to come in and create spreadsheets." So she came in as our operations director. So she took over control of all ordering, all payments, all finances, all cash flow, all of that. And we formed a very good team, the 3 of us, because we have very complementary skills. So they're still in the business. Anna is now our managing director, which means that she does most of the hard work, and that leaves me free to do lovely things like this, talk to you. And Susie is still our operations director, and we've grown enormously now. But Susie is still in charge of ensuring that we have the right amount of stock and that we have the right amount of money and so on. So they play very important roles. And we now have a team of 10, of which they are 2 very important members.
How amazing that you had such complementary skills, and also 2 people in such important roles that you could absolutely trust no matter what. I mean, that's marvelous. It was meant to work out. It sounds like, Tricia.
There's a lot of meant to be about this serendipity. I mean, it's just incredible. And what is lovely, especially through COVID and lockdown, is that we started working from home, and we were communicating every day via Zoom at 4:00 with the whole team. So we would all be on screen, and I'd get to see them every day, and I would feel so much, because I live alone, I would feel so much happier because I was in touch with them on a daily basis through the business. But it just, I think I have to tell you that after 8 years, where a big growing business is quite a responsibility, to say the least, but having them in the business, they're younger, they are very competent at what they do, but it's an absolute brilliant boon for me to have them. And I think if I had to I would have to employ people otherwise in those roles. But it's so much nicer having my daughters there, because we're all committed to the same thing. We're all excited about the business. And of course, as you say, I absolutely trust them 100%.
So are there things you didn't know that you wished you had known before you started the business? Or was it kind of a blessing not to be aware of some things?
I think it's probably a blessing. I tell you, I think that if you know a lot about something and then you try and start something for yourself, you know what all the pitfalls are, you know where all the snags are going to be, you know where some of the glitches might come. I knew nothing. I knew absolutely nothing. And actually, that I do think that sometimes by learning on the job, by learning as you go along, as long as you don't make major mistakes. I mean, I can't say that we've not made any mistakes, because we definitely have made mistakes, but by learning and taking that learning forward, I understood the basics of business. I had that. I've had that for a very long time. I ran my own consultancy from 1996 until India was born in 2012. So I kind of understood the nuts and bolts of business. I understood that you have to have, if you run out of cash, you've got to get that cash from somewhere else. You've either got to get it from investment, or you go to the bank and get a loan. Or you just keep, any money you make, you then put back into the business. I understood the basics of that, keeping a close eye on those fundamentals so that you don't go bankrupt. So I understood all that, but I think that the specifics of a beauty business, of course, I didn't know, but I have learned along the way, and I think we're now pretty good at it.
I would say, yes. What surprised you the most about launching the company?
Oh, I think one of the nicest surprises was the degree of support I had from my friends. They were integral to the whole process because they're the same age as me. And when I called them up and said things like, I'm thinking of starting a beauty business, for a start, they were very positive about it, but they helped me. I had 7 or 8 friends come for a photo session. So we photographed them without makeup. We then put the Look Fabulous makeup on them and photographed them again. And that all went on to the first website. 2 of my closest friends volunteered to be in the videos, even though they'd never been in a video before in their lives. So that was lovely. And of course, they bought the products. They became my first customers. They're still my customers. And I think that was the nicest thing, because it was like, I think there was, to a certain extent, there was a degree of sympathy for what had happened with India. Many of them were quite distressed about that situation with India. They are grandmothers themselves, a lot of them, and they really understood how heartbreaking it was to have to go through that. And I think when I came out of it and said, I want to do something new and something fresh, they were very prepared to then support me in the way that they did. And that was brilliant. It was incredibly kind of them to understand that just by giving me that bit of support, I would get the whole thing off the ground, and it would be something for me to do.
What kinds of reactions did you initially have from older women who found out about your products?
Lovely reactions, really lovely reactions. I got some wonderful emails. I got some wonderful reviews and comments about the products. And I think the whole thing is, Elise, that if the products hadn't actually worked in the way that I claimed that they would work, we wouldn't have been successful. The products had to deliver against the promises that we were making. This did have to be better foundation for an older face. We had to have the things that I was saying, this is why you need this is why this works better, and so on. And as people started to buy the products and they would leave their reviews and stuff, we got some fantastic feedback. And we still do. We have a very high rating on Trustpilot for our products, and we get wonderful, wonderful things said to us every day. We have a weekly meeting, and our customer services manager reads out the latest 4 or 5 5-star reviews, and they are heartwarming, and people just say things like, thank goodness at last somebody has taken this subject seriously and is doing something about it. And they're so grateful. And we've had an amazing response through lockdown with some initiatives that we've done to support women like me who are on their own, self-isolating, or with husbands and self-isolating, and a bit scared and a bit worried about a pandemic that kills you quicker when you're older. And I've done various initiatives. I launched something called Tea Time at the Ritz with Tricia, which was a daily video that I made that went out at 4 o'clock. So the idea was you make yourself a cup of tea, this video lands in your email inbox, and you sit and watch it. And I would get several thousand views on that every day. And on one, I cut my own hair. You can't a hairdresser, so this is how you cut your own hair. I'd never cut my own hair before in my life, but I did it on video, which was fun. And then I would think of something to talk about every single day that I thought might interest them, and I managed to make 60 videos in 12 weeks. So that was amazing, and it kept our customers engaged. We ran competitions. We had one brilliant competition, which was turn yourself into an artwork, and we had people, dressing up as, I did girl in a pearl earring, so I swathed my head in a blue turban and wore a pearl earring and tried to get the same pose as she's got.
That's great.
We had the most amazing entrance for it. We started a Facebook page called Tricia Super Troopers. Super Troopers being, like the wartime spirit, invoking that sense of we can get through this. This pandemic won't beat us. And we quickly gathered about 6,500 women from all over the world, and became a very, very supportive group, which is still going strong. And then I did the videos for that. And then earlier this year, when we went into the second lockdown, which started in January, I did a daily program every day. So Mondays we did Makeup Magic Monday. So I did a live Zoom that people could come into, showing various techniques. Then Tuesdays we did a talk. So I found somebody interesting to talk to for half an hour or so, and then they could ask questions. On Wednesdays we did a healthy cooking demonstration. Thursdays we did exercises, which I did with my personal trainer. And on Fridays we started a film club. I started a film club, which is still going strong. So every day there was something for you to do if you were locked down and self-isolating. And
that is so brilliant, Tricia.
Yeah, it kept our customers engaged, and it kept our business fresh, and our business thrived throughout the pandemic.
And I love the name you came up with as well. That's really lovely. So what do you personally most enjoy about the business right now?
There isn't anything that I don't enjoy, to be honest with you. The things that I get most satisfaction, I actually am getting a lot of satisfaction out of the fact that despite going through this terrible pandemic, which has really, really affected everybody, is that our business has survived it. I didn't think it would. That sounds terribly pessimistic, but last March, when we were hearing more and more about what was happening in Italy, I was following it very carefully. Italy isn't far from where we are, and you could see, and their health system is not that different from ours, and you could see that it was under enormous stress. And you could also see that if they were going through this level of dire, circumstances, we were about 3 weeks behind them. So if that was like it. So even in March, before we locked down on March the 23rd, the whole country was locked down. But even before that, I could see that it was coming our way. And I sent an email to the girls on about the 16th of March saying, I'm not sure our business is going to survive this, because I can't see that older women who are likely to be, really have to self-isolate, have to stay at home because of the age impact of COVID. Our business, I don't think our business will survive this. So what can we do? Let's think of all the things that we can do just to get through it. So we cut back on overhead. We had a furlough scheme, which meant that the government would pay 80% of people's pay. We put a couple of people onto furlough. We had a couple of pending appointments, which we didn't make. We just withdrew the offer and just said, we can't make this offer right now. We all took pay cuts. We just did everything. We went into sort of bunker mentality, like let's just, protect ourselves and get through this. And then within about 2 or 3 months, we could see that that wasn't happening at all, that we were fine, that older women were still buying makeup, and they were having competitions with each other for which lipstick they were going to wear that day. And we were doing all sorts of things. And because I was doing Tea Time at the Ritz, and we were doing Super Troopers on Facebook, everything was fine, and we were able to make those appointments that we'd held off on, and everything came back to normal. And I think I'm really enjoying the fact that here we are now, coming hopefully, towards the end of the worst of it anyway, that we have survived in good shape, in very good shape, and that we're actually growing, really quite very successfully at the moment. And that's a very good feeling, because it means that you sleep well at night.
And speaking of growing, you have some newer products that you've come out with, and then you have some on the drawing board. I don't know how much you can share with us at this point, but can you tell us a little bit about some of them?
Yeah, so we have a sort of, what we try and create a new product line. And in fact, we had somebody, a specialist in the business, but she was working with us as a freelancer. So we stopped using her services at the beginning of the pandemic. And Susie and I were doing the sort of new products pipeline thing, but she's just come back in. Fiona, her name is, has just come back into the business again. In fact, I'm meeting her tomorrow to have a look at what some of the competitors are doing and what we might think about for us. But one of the things that we've been doing is just introducing the same product. So say like the blushers, but actually extending the range of colors and things like that. That's always a challenge for us. When you start out quite small, you keep the range very tight, because you can't afford to have multiple products on the shelves, especially some that don't sell very well. We've just introduced some long-lasting lipsticks. I've got one on right now. So they're proving to be very popular indeed, because you can put them on in the morning, and I refresh my lipstick perhaps after lunch, but that's it. Then it's pretty much there until bedtime, which is great. We started and have an excellent and very popular skincare range, which was quite a big departure for us. We've got 5 products in that now, but we're also extending that out. So our next proper product launch will be in the new year. We've got a hydrating mask coming online, an exfoliator. We've developed a hand cream to reduce the age spots on the back of the hand.
Oh, wonderful.
So every single product that we produce, the criterion is this a good thing to have when you're older? So, is it a product that can be very helpful for an older person on an older face? So, the refining face mask, obviously, a gentle exfoliator, obviously, and this hand cream we're very excited about, because we hope that it will actually make a real difference to the moisturizing your hands, but also to reducing the effects of aging on the hands.
So I have to ask you what color lipstick you're wearing, because that is absolutely gorgeous.
So this is Soft Plum. It's one of our lipsticks that I love for autumn, winter. It's not one I wear much during the summer, but I find at this time of year, here in the UK, we have at the moment, it's very definitely autumnal weather. It's getting dark at about 4:30 in the evening. And the light changes quite a lot. We're Northern Hemisphere, so the light tends to get very grey and has very little warmth in it. And I love these sort of plummy colours like this lipstick. I think I'm cool toned, so I suit the undertone of my skin is blue, so I suit blues, purples, those kind of things, and this Soft Plum is perfect for.
And I've seen you wear a gorgeous, I think almost a fuchsia color too. Yes. What is that one?
Summertime. I wear fuchsia. We have a lipstick called fuchsia, and I feel that's a very summertime lipstick. It's a very bright, quite strong pink, and I find if I'm wearing white and it's summer light, which is very much purer, more pure and brighter, fuchsia is wonderful. I love it.
Outside of your business and outside of your family, what should we know about Tricia that you enjoy? What brings you a great deal of pleasure? I'm quite a cerebral person in lots of ways. I love reading, the cinema, theatre, things like that. It's been really frustrating not to be able to go out to the cinema. In fact, during the first lockdown, I made a date with myself every Saturday afternoon at 3:00, as if I was going to the cinema, and I'd sit down and watch Curzon Home Cinema. So there's a
chain of cinemas in the UK called Curzon. And they tend to show a lot of foreign language films and things that I really enjoy. So I'd sit down every Saturday with a cup of tea at 3 o'clock and watch a film to pretend that I'd actually gone to the cinema. So I like things like that. I've actually just this week on Monday, I came back from a winter break in Tenerife, which was quite incredible for me. I've had a house in France for 24 years and I've just sold it, which is incredibly sad. I didn't really want to sell it, but we've gone through Brexit, this process of leaving the European Union, so it's much more difficult to have a house abroad now. And I just felt that it was the right time to do that. So I promised myself that now I'm not going down to France every year in the summer. I'm going to have these breaks where I get to go away. So I flew to Tenerife. The weather was absolutely beautiful. It was sunny and warm. And I just had the most brilliant rest, proper break for the first time for a long time. So I'm going to do more of that.
Sounds wonderful. You deserve it. Have you seen many changes in the beauty industry over the years since you started Look Fabulous Forever? And what would you like to see change that hasn't changed?
I've seen a little bit of movement towards accommodating the needs of older women. I've seen a few more women being featured in advertisements. Obviously, L'Oreal are using Jane Fonda and they're using Helen Mirren, fine. There are other people besides Jane Fonda and Helen Mirren. They seem to think those two are the only ones. So I've seen a little bit of an inclusivity that wasn't there before, but I haven't seen a huge lessening of the whole message around anti-aging. I just feel it's so wrong that we should be indoctrinated with the idea that aging is something to dread, that it's something negative, that it's something horrible, that it's ugly, and that it's something to be avoided at all costs. Because my experience, I'm now 63, I should be 64 on Christmas Day. My experience of being older is that this has undoubtedly been the happiest and best time of my life so far.
And there's research to back that up, that people are happier as they get older, which...
This is not unusual. No, the research shows that we're U-curved for happiness. So it's a U shape. So you start very happy as a child, if you're lucky, then it goes down and down and down, and you get your most unhappy somewhere in your 40s, 50s, and then it starts to climb again until you reach a new peak of happiness as you get into your 70s. And nobody tells you that. Everybody tells you that it's awful, Yeah. And everything ages, every living thing ages, and every living thing dies eventually. And yet we seem to live in a world and in a society, especially in the West, in the US and in the UK, which says that there's something terribly wrong with that process and we must do everything we can to combat it. And when you look at societies like many Asian societies where older people are venerated and are generally very well looked after by their family and so on, and are very loved for being older, they live longer. And they live longer in a better way than us. So it impacts on us. It impacts on how we feel about ourselves, on how we live as older people, and also how rich and full our lives are, because we are made to feel that there's something wrong with us as we get older.
I recently saw a really interesting survey that was done of looking at ad managers in companies and their ages. And they're all 25 to 35. I mean, that was sort of the average age. So, how do you combat that? Because obviously they're going to be looking at putting people representing their companies that are younger because of that. So it's a really interesting challenge, I think, especially the representation in the media.
Which is important because we have to see ourselves represented in positive ways. That's important. I really resent that I often see advertisements for old age which are about fixing some problem with it. So it's incontinence pads, or it's Voltarol for sore muscles, or it's a stair lift or a walk-in bath. And it's like, hang on a minute, A, I don't need any of those things, and B, I also use washing powder. Why can't you show me as somebody who is just using the ordinary everyday things that, people like me are still using?
Right.
Why can't you show an older person using that stuff? Why do we have to have young families doing all of that exciting stuff? And we just get to wear the incontinence pants.
And, and I'm sure you've run into situations. I know I had a situation recently where I was calling a doctor's office, and they were shocked when they heard my voice at how old I was. And I was like, this is, what did you expect? I mean, so yeah, it's interesting. All the subtle and not so subtle ways that kind of discrimination happens. But let's get on a happier topic in terms of what are you looking for the future of Look Fabulous Forever?
I'm looking for it to keep growing. The reason I want it to grow, obviously from a business point of view, it's good if you've got a growing business, but I want us to become much more of a voice for older women, to advocate on behalf of older women. I mean, I do quite a lot of that. Part of my role now within the business is to speak up, to speak out. I was last week a week before last, I was on a conference, a later living conference. I was the keynote speaker, and you're right to say that it's usually younger people that are making decisions for older people and about older people. So being a voice for the older person to challenge some of their assumptions. I did some interesting challenging recently around the assumptions for residential care. I think they get it very wrong. And I was trying to give examples of better practice. There's some very good practice in places like Holland and Germany, where they incorporate things like nursery schools and opportunities for intergenerational living within residential care, so that you don't ghettoize older people into communities that are only composed of those older people and their carers, that you actually see older people as being part of a community, and you build as much community relationship as you possibly can. And I don't know about you, but if I did need to go into residential care because I needed to be looked after, I would far rather spend my days looking at and mixing with people from different generations than only my own. And there's nothing wrong with my own generation. I've got lots of friends of my own age and I love being with them, and I'm not saying anything against them, but only having contact with them would feel to me like something I didn't want. And I've got 5 grandchildren. I love seeing my grandchildren because they're just so brilliant. They're funny and they keep me happy.
And they get you up and down off the floor. I mean, there are all kinds of things that they help with.
All of that, there's my grandchildren range in age from 5 to 13, and the 13-year-old is a boy, and he comes up with the most incredible things. I love him to bits because of the things that he says. But the 5-year-old, she's just a hoot.
Well, Tricia, this has been delightful. And before we close, can you share with our viewers what is the best way for them to find out about Look Fabulous Forever and your products?
Well, everything is online. We sell worldwide. We have distribution in Florida, from Florida, for our US customers. So it doesn't all come from it's made in the UK, but it doesn't all come from the UK. It's distributed within the USA. We're on lookfabulousforever.com. We have a big, wide-ranging and very rich website. So we've got a lot of information on our website. So there's loads of videos. There's lots and lots of product information and so on. I've seen from the word go really the important aspect of educating our customers about anything and everything that they want to know, really. We have a very generous returns policy, so you can return anything, either for a refund or a replacement, that even if you used and tried it, because we feel because you buy online, you're buying, you have to, it's a trust element really, and we really want to fulfill your confidence in us by saying, okay, if you don't like it, just send it back, we give you your money back. So hopefully there was a resistance to buying makeup online, especially for our age group, our target age group, but I think that's reduced hugely during the pandemic. But we do try and make it as easy as we possibly can.
And you have ongoing YouTube videos, is that correct too?
Ongoing, sorry?
YouTube videos?
Oh, yes, yes. All the videos are still there. We've got 150, 200 videos on YouTube, and we make them pretty consistently. So there's lots and lots and lots of ways you can engage with us. And those videos are designed to really show you exactly what you can do, with any aspect of your makeup you're not happy with.
Thank you so much for what you've done for all of us who are older. I wish you much wonderful continuing success with your business. This has been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you, Elise. It's been a pleasure for me too. It's lovely to talk to you.
Great. Take care.
Thank you.